So it's wonderful to see everybody on a beautiful July day, the last day of July. I want to make two announcements before I forget. Tomorrow is one of the wheel turning days. In Tibetan Buddhism, we have four major holidays. And this is the holiday that celebrates the first turning of the wheel. And this is the day His Holiness Chetseng Rinpoche was born. And so even though this holiday is on a lunar calendar and may change numerical dates, we always celebrate his birthday on this day. So there's a special program tomorrow at 6 with some prayers, and I'll talk a little bit about his life. Also, starting next Sunday, for the Sundays in August, we're adding an hour to our Sunday Dharma. So it will start at 9. And I've invited Carol Bailey, who is a wonderful practitioner, to demonstrate some of the somatic, the mind body, the energy sensitivity practices that come from the Vajrayana lineage of Khenpo Munsel. So it works with energetics, and she'll introduce the foundational practice. I know a lot of people have been studying the Shrivasti yogas with me and have found them to be really quite extraordinary approaches to meditation. And so she will demonstrate them, and then we'll have some time for sitting meditation, which we haven't had much time for in this very short hour. So you're welcome to attend. It's the same Zoom codes. And she showed them to me. She was just demonstrating them one day, and they are just profound practices. So I'm thrilled that she consented to offering them. So we are studying Lojong, or the 7 points of mind training. We are in point 6, which is the commitments to training our mind. And we've been going back a little bit to understanding the view. So everything in Tibetan Buddhism that we study presents the view first, and then we understand what are the approaches to the practice, and then how do they take us closer to the view. And we left off last week, again, talking about Buddha nature, which is really a significant understanding that we have an inherent perfection and that we are clearing away defilements. And someone asked a question, and I mentioned how that understanding has become more philosophically explicit as Buddhism progressed through the 2,000 or 3,000 years. And I just want to mention one book that's very helpful if you're trying to understand how these progressions of philosophy are the same, and at the same time expanded in terms of their practice and explanation over the years and years and years, and over time in which many great beings have achieved enlightenment or great states and added their commentaries and perspectives. So this book is Buddhism, One Teacher, Many Traditions, by the Dalai Lama and Venerable Thupten Chodron. So it gives perspective on all the basics of Buddhism and how each of the different turnings of the wheel express them. So Monday, we are celebrating the first turning of the wheel. And our perspective in later Buddhism is that there were 3 turnings of the wheel. So if we think about the first turning of the wheel, it's very easy to go back to the 4 Noble Truths. And remember that we come to this, for the most part, looking for the cause of our own suffering. And as we study and see that there are causes and that those causes can be removed, part of that evolving mind looks more and more at the suffering of others and includes the suffering of others. So I'm just going to go back to remind everyone how this particular text presents the view of its particular wisdom that it's presenting. So contemplate that as long as you're focused on self-importance and too caught up in thinking about how you are good or bad, you will experience suffering. So we begin, this is slogan number 4, very early, saying, why are we suffering? And it has to do with being too focused on ourselves. And then slogan number 5, rest in the nature of alaya, the essence, the present moment. So it's saying we're so focused outwards in terms of how we are experiencing life, and outwards in terms of a narrative that we're constructing, and that as long as we do that, we're going to experience suffering. And what is the direction? The direction is abiding in the nature of mind, which is expressed as we evolve through the centuries as Buddha nature, or our inner perfection. So I invited you to look at the Dharmapada, which is a collection of Buddha's sayings, and contemplate really what is this view. And if we're going to have confidence that we can let go of what we are saying as layers of covering of our perfect Buddha nature, we have to understand that and begin to have some confidence in that. So the first line of the Dharmapada is, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. So this suffering that we're experience and that we see others experiencing is a result of what we are thinking. It's founded on our thoughts. And then where are the earliest seeds of our inherent goodness? And this understanding that these thoughts that cause us suffering are not part of our inner perfection, but are removable layers of ignorance. So in the sutras, the Anguttara Nikaya, the mind is luminous, but it is defiled by adventitious defilements. Uninstructed worldlings do not understand this as it really is. Therefore, for them, there is no development of the mind. This mind is luminous, and it is freed from adventitious defilements. Instructed Aryas understand this as it really is. Therefore, for them, there is development of the mind. So very clearly, we're saying suffering is related to our thoughts, and that if we are uninstructed, these adventitious stains, which we can call, the very destructive emotions that we have, the very destructive narratives that we have, the very negative habitual patterns that we have in terms of observing the world, if we don't see them as adventitious and work to change the habitual patterns and dissolve these layers, then there's no development of the mind. But because the mind is luminous and can be freed, those of us who are studying the Dharma and working with our minds do have development of the mind. So we have two metaphors that are very effective about this. And one we can think of as an eclipse. So the new moon is caught in a shadow, and slowly, as it turns, the luminosity of the sun is reflected and it becomes brighter and brighter. So the shadow of the new moon doesn't affect the moon's potential. It doesn't in any way defile the moon. It's the turning of the moon that then catches the brilliance of the full moon. And another metaphor is that our inherent goodness is present, and we experience it like a seed. So the more we water the seed and fertilize the seed and create the conditions of the soil and the sun, the seed grows and grows and grows. So similarly, because we have the potential, because we have an inherent perfection, then all of our work in the Dharma allows that Buddha nature to grow and to blossom. So in this section of the Lojong, it's very interesting because this section is talking about what commitments do we choose to make so that we can really develop this mind, so that we can turn towards our Buddha nature, so that we can completely allow our bodhicitta to blossom. And it's expressed in don'ts. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So I'm going to put these slogans, the ones we're on now. Don't talk about injured limbs. Don't take pleasure in contemplating others' defects. Don't use speech that's unpleasant to hear. Don't ponder others. Don't take pleasure contemplating others' weaknesses. That this is due to our impure perspective. So essentially, we are moving towards mindfulness of mind and mindfulness of speech in the way we are operating in our daily lives. How do we change the habitual patterns of judging others, blaming others, struggling against what we perceive as the outside world, and making ourselves feel better by essentially taking others down? So we can see that we have aspects of these qualities. It's even culturally humorous to have aspects of these qualities. But we're asking the question, if we want to develop this luminous nature of our mind, if we want to abide in it, what behaviors do we want to question and slowly work to change? And as we move through the world, are we helping others to move towards their Buddha nature, or are we participating in the chaos and confusion of the perceived defective world? So these slogans are really obvious. Don't talk about injured limbs, so don't judge other people. Don't talk about their defects. Use friendly, gentle speech so that when we're interacting with others, we're assisting ourselves and them to blossom. don't ponder others. And this has the quality of don't take pleasure in contemplating the weaknesses of others. And so it's quite related. It's, subtly different. It's asking the question, if we start to turn towards the Dharma, turn towards our Buddha nature, turn towards what we express as a mind abiding in bodhicitta, when we see others, we are seeing their Buddha nature, seeing their potential, and looking for the way that we can be helpful towards them. So this second one really asks us to say, what is the quality of our nature that we're abiding in? Can we abide more and more in bodhicitta, loving kindness and compassion? And from that perspective, not pondering others, their behaviors, their weaknesses, but supporting their Buddha nature. So the third one, sometimes we spend weeks and weeks on just one, but today we're going to take three together. So we're not judging others, we're not pondering others, we're not complaining and judging and joining in the screaming and yelling. What we are doing is work with our own greatest defilements first. So if there are layers of confusion covering our mind, if we are absolutely encased in the shadow, then instead of joining in the destructiveness of ignorance, work on our greatest defilements first. And as we become more gentle, more friendly, more abiding in our own loving kindness, then we are benefiting beings in every interaction that we have. It's actually the best way to benefit beings, because every word is an invitation for us both to blossom. And I know you know this. Those days that we're in a wonderful mood and we go to the grocery store and we're smiling at the clerk and really enjoying the qualities of friendliness that we see in them. I went to get coffee yesterday, and the clerk, the first guy who was taking the order, was so friendly and so nice. It's also from the side of the other person that we're interacting with. His joyful friendliness called forth my joyful friendliness. So we're checking in to see if our behaviors, if our commitments to always seeing what is propelling our speech and our actions, if we can hold that mindfulness, then we are really bringing the best benefit for ourselves and others. This doesn't in any way mean that we don't see injustice in the world and we don't act. It means that we look to see how we are interfacing with each and every being in all of our actions, including actions to help our culture go towards supporting Buddha nature. Okay, let's just sort of sink in with these slogans, because it's inviting quite a different sensibility when we're off the cushion. How to keep our mind in the Dharma when we're off the cushion. So let's just think about this for a few minutes. So these slogans together really ask us to question where our mind is abiding, and if we are turning more and more towards our Buddha nature, and then gives us the method of working with the most difficult, in-your-face aspect of our shadow first. So it's very, very simple. Where is our mind abiding, and can we make a commitment to hold our mindfulness steadily so we can see that, and make the inner commitment to ourselves to keep turning towards our Buddha nature in the pause or the choice. So we'll dedicate this and close the Facebook Live. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.